course, Norfolk isn't the only place where weird cases can be found. A&E departments across Britain all have tales to tell of unusual accidents that have crashed through their doors. Each week, we bring you one of the most bizarre medical emergencies of recent years. James Tyndall had to undergo 2 extraordinary operations when what was meant to be a treat nearly cost him the use of his hand. James is now 18. When he was 9, his parents hired a bouncy castle for the back garden for him and his friends to play on.
I was on the bouncy castle pretty much all day with my friend. My friend went home for dinner and I was still on it. Mum came in to the kitchen.
I was filling up the cup with some water when I just heard an almighty bang.
The tube came off the back and as it started deflating, I got thrown off, went to the back.
James was thrown straight at the fan that was blowing air into the inflatable.
Instead of actually banging my head on the motor, I put my arms out to save me.
And his hand went straight into the motor.
Pulled my hand out and just screamed and ran in, really.
Dropped the water and ran to the back door as James met me there, and as I looked down and saw the damage to his hand, I just couldn't believe that he'd done it.
I met my mum at the kitchen door saying that I don't want to lose my fingers, I don't want to lose my fingers.
I don't want to lose my fingers, I don't want to lose my fingers.
I couldn't believe it, really. It wouldn't sink in.
Then Mum went absolutely crazy, rang the ambulance.
One bone had been smashed into 25 pieces and the flesh was completely ripped off from 2 of his fingers.
It actually looked like 2 sausages in a pan that had burst open.
They took me to Royal Infirmary, blue lights all the way.
They rushed him into the resus area and basically started working on him.
It would have been easier for James to have his fingers amputated, but he begged the doctors to keep his fingers.
James is a really good rugby player. For him to lose 2 fingers would be like devastating to him.
To salvage what they could of the mangled fingers, doctors used a surprising technique.
First of all, they took him into theatre and we just thought that he would come out with a bandage on his hand.
Went into theatre and came out with my hand sewn under my arm.
James's hand was now stitched into his left side. His damaged fingers had been grafted onto a still healthy area of underarm flesh.
We raise a tongue of skin and fat from the armpit and put this area, which is devoid of skin, and then attach the skin from the armpit to the surrounds of the wound.
Just 2 weeks later, the hand was cut free, and what had been a flap of underarm skin was now growing in a new part of the body. The armpit transplant successfully covered up the wounds, but there was no chance the fingers would ever grow again or even move normally.
The bones had been smashed to pieces. It damaged pretty much every knuckle in the 2 fingers, so it was impossible really for it to rebuild.
For a sports-mad kid, this was unbearable.
He was psychologically extremely traumatized. James hasn't even looked at his hand and he's in a kind of state of denial. He doesn't want to accept that it had happened to him.
So a radical new suggestion was made.
There was an operation that got offered to me, what was a total finger transplant.
What's stressful for the surgeon is that if you take off 2 not very good fingers and then replace them with microvascular toe transfers, if those fail and are rejected, you can end up with no fingers, which you might well see as worse.
I thought everything was going to go wrong at the first time. That's why it took me so long for the decision.
When I did the surgery, the first thing to do was to remove the fingers and prepare the hand. So then we take the toes, we harvest the toes, and then we usually have a bite of lunch. Because once the toes are off, the time's running, and you have to get them reflowing within an hour each.
Only a year later, James's new fingers were working fully, and he could play rugby again.
Absolutely amazed, really, considering how small things are in your hand and in your fingers. It was remarkable work, like.
It was just the best thing I ever did for my lifestyle, really.
People don't notice that he's had a damaged hand. They don't notice that he's only got photos because Mr K had done such a good job.
James is playing full contact rugby again, plays sport at school, sitting a sports degree at school, training to be a fitness instructor at work. He's doing absolutely brilliant.